former UKIP leader, is back on his battle bus. This time he says to stop the betrayal of Brexit. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
We spoke to John McDonnell, obviously, about the nuclear question. I'm sure.
Well, what do you make of that first, actually?
Amazing that after 30 years of not discussing it in Britain, because this was an issue that damaged Labour, if you remember, very badly back in the 1980s. A lot of Labour support, think strong defence is very, very important. And I was very struck that the idea that you'd spend all this money on something and then not use it is crazy.
Well, especially if the point of spending the money is to create a deterrent. There clearly is no deterrent if the people charged with actually authorising it make it crystal clear publicly, repeatedly, they never use it.
Yes, and the idea that somehow maybe a decision could be made by committee clearly is ludicrous in the circumstances in which it would need to.
Well, I think John McDonnell raised a can of worms because he basically ended up saying that if Jeremy Corbyn was Prime Minister and was advised to use it, he would abide by the advice, which seems to me a change of position that Jeremy Corbyn may have to answer today. Would he? Would he act on the advice if he was told? Only the British Prime Minister can authorise it.
I would have thought the circumstances in which, and let's hope it never happens, this had to be used, there would not be time for meetings and committees.
Of course.
It would be a decision.
It's a terribly unpalatable thought, and frankly, no one wants to use it.
But of course they don't.
Consequences would be devastating, but there is no point in having something
If you don't use it.
if you're not going to use it. Let's talk about something else that they have changed on, and that is the second referendum. It now appears that if the membership forced that proposition on the Labour leadership, they would acquiesce to a second referendum. But I'm just wondering what effect that would have on the Labour heartlands, whether that might actually drive people, who did support Labour, who do feel that Jeremy Corbyn's position of respecting the referendum result actually isn't an honest one.
And telling people before the general election that Labour were about leaving the European Union, respecting the vote, leaving the single market. Corbyn said all of these things. I think a very London-led Labour Party is on the verge today of making a huge mistake, one of its biggest mistakes in decades. Let's remember this. There were 5 million people who voted Brexit in 16, who then voted Labour in 17. I was up in the north of England at the weekend in a real Labour stronghold, a Leave stronghold,
Where was
Labour
that?
stronghold, up in Bolton at the weekend. And what I'm very struck by is a lot of Labour Leave voters absolutely believe in Brexit with all their heart and soul.
You don't believe in Mrs May's negotiations.
That's true.
The EU doesn't believe in them. A lot of her own people don't believe in them. The cabinet's split over it. You would want, wouldn't you, a decision on whether that deal is a good one or not?
Well, the most important thing is we deliver Brexit. Brexit was about us becoming an independent country. It wasn't about what kind of deal we could or could not do. It was about us being self-governing. However, in those circumstances, what you want to do is to try to achieve the best possible deal. And here's the weird thing. For nearly 20 years, I've been told by Neil Kinnock when he was a commissioner, Giscard d'Estaing, the former president of France, for nearly 20 years I've been told in Brussels, if Britain wants to leave and wants to have a simple free trade deal, that's fine by us. And the bizarre thing is, we vote Brexit and the Prime Minister doesn't want a simple free trade deal.
Well, because there's an issue with the border.
There's no issue with the border, and particularly...
and
particularly...
Hang on. People say there is no issue with the border, and
if there's a
people
free
say
trade
it's a
deal,
devastating potential crisis.
If there's a free trade deal, what's the issue? What's the issue? There is no issue. This issue of the Irish border really has been used very much by particularly Monsieur Barnier to try and push Britain back into a hole.
Well, because we don't have a single market.
Already we have on that border, come on, we've got a different currency, different VAT rates, different tax rates, different corporation tax rates.
And there's limits on freedom of movement, and there need to be checks on the border.
Well, no, but Ireland's not in the Schengen zone, and we've had a common travel area with Ireland for nearly 100 years. There's no issue here. If we don't have a free trade deal, there is tariff over that border. I would accept that. But I honestly believe, if Mrs May now recognised that her plan is completely flawed, doesn't deliver Brexit, isn't loved here, isn't loved on the other side of the channel.
What plan would you accept? What plan would the true die-hard Brexiters accept?
Would you know,
that, in your view, wouldn't betray the ethos of what people voted?
Piers, for 25 years, ever since I first stood for UKIP back in 1993, I've said I want our relationship with Europe to be based on free trade and friendship, which actually is what my parents' generation were told the common market was all about. So I'd love us to have a sensible trade deal.
Is it the
I believe
Canada
it's on offer.
plus deal that David Davis
Yes,
champions?
and he's going to be... I mean, I was with David on Saturday. He's going to be laying that out today with Boris more formally. And you know something? German industry desperately wants this. And I think we're very close. Very close. If the Prime Minister can make her mind up, ditch checkers, we're close to quite a good deal.
I want to ask you what you think is happening with UKIP. A lot of people concerned that UKIP is being dragged in a direction that even you might feel uncomfortable.
I mean, even me. You know, when I was leader of UKIP,
It's your party.
When I was leader of UKIP, I actually forbade any former members of the EDL or the BNP to even be members of the party, because I wanted us to talk about real issues like immigration, but without anybody being able to say we were racist and actually meaning anything. And I think UKIP is now tempted, or some people in UKIP are tempted, to let figures like Tommy Robinson into the party, and I think that would be a catastrophic mistake. Is
it something that you would like to go back? I mean, you've led UKIP, you know, a large number of times.
For most of my life.
You're sort of like a boomerang with UKIP. Are you tempted to go back?
No, I don't want to. I don't want to. You know, I think nobody can be leader of a party forever, whether it's Blair or anybody. You know, you can't do that. But I mean, UKIP could take huge advantage, particularly this Labour situation today with the second referendum. But I think they've got to sort this issue out. You know, are they going to stay pretty much where I took them, or do they wish to move to the right?
I read somebody on Twitter over the weekend who was endorsing a view that I've put out here on this programme many, many times, and was very clear that the way through this, because it's creating such division and so on, probably worse than it was even before the referendum, is that we put a Brexiteer in charge.
Oh, hang on, was that my tweet?
Oh, that was you, yeah. You've taken what I've been saying for 3 weeks and just put it on a tweet as if somehow this is your great new idea.
It was my idea.
Right.
Months ago.
Well, the viewers know, because they've been watching. So as I've been repeatedly saying for a long time, wouldn't it be better to have the train to Brexit being at least run by a driver who believes in Brexit?
Of course, of course. As I say, free trade is what the European Union have told us we can have for 20 years. Mrs May doesn't want a free trade deal. She wants to keep us closely linked politically to all the parts of the European Union. It's been a huge mistake for the Tory party and the country to have a Remainer in charge.
OK, we've got to...